You're listening to The Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
With mostly sunny
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
At the Olympics, U.S. star gymnast Simone Biles took gold in the women's all-around. Biles received her 6th Olympic gold medal, making her the most decorated U.S. gymnast in Olympic history. And U.S. swimmer Katie Ledecky took her 13th Olympic medal by taking silver in the 4x200-meter relay. She now owns the record for the most medals ever by a U.S. female Olympian. NFL Hall of Fame game preseason opener. Bears beat the Texans 21-17. The game was called late in the third quarter due to bad weather. No C.J. Stroud at quarterback for Houston. No Caleb Williams for Chicago. Brett Rippon had 3 touchdown passes. NFL quarterback news. Chargers signal caller Justin Herbert is in a walking boot for the next 2 weeks. Suffered a foot injury in practice. The team believes he'll be ready for the opener week 1. Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith is undergoing testing after missing the team's past 2 practices with hip and knee issues. In baseball, battle of division leaders. The Guardians beat the Orioles 10-3.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. But you should pick up, you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pick you, and our running back coach didn't take the test. biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning and welcome into the Martin Houston Show. The Martin and Xavier's Martin Houston Show powered by Box Eye Care. Dr. Daniel Box and his team at their new location on Oscar Baxter Road are waiting on an opportunity to serve you. Still great, same great service they've always provided. New location, new facilities, new services, and we'll be telling you more about those. You can call them at 205-342-0660 if you would like to get your eyes checked or get new frames, etc. They will take care of you. That's Box Eye Care. Dr. Daniel Box and his team are waiting to serve you. Go check them out at boxeyecare.com. Once again, you're tuned into the Martin Houston Show, powered by Box Eye Care. Good morning, Edge. How you doing, man?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Oh, doing well, man. I cannot and would not complain. It's a beautiful morning, and glad to be here with you, and glad to be up and at 'em on a free-for-all Friday. That's what we have today. It's kind of a free-for-all Friday. Of course, 2 days into the Alabama season, and we've already heard more from the defensive coach than we would hear in a year. So lots of good stuff coming out from the capstone after 2 days of practice, and we'll work some of that audio in. We will add Kennington Smith to the conversation. He may be popping in like this as he gets to go to practice a little bit more than we do. So we'll use him on Mondays, but we'll also, if he has something you want to break down. So he'll be joining us in the second quarter, as well. Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made. So let's rejoice, be glad in it, take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. So, X, what have you heard, man? Just coming out of the Crimson Tide, out of the out of the capstone. Interesting conversation yesterday from Womack about certain players. But what are you hearing? You heard anything good, Chet?
Yeah. I mean, you're hearing about some of the young guys. Coach Womack had a lot of praise for Jalen Mbakwe. The growth that he's had. I think he said he's probably had the most growth of any of the DBs since spring. Of course, Ryan Williams, all the talk around him. He's the talk of the town as the true freshman who just got here and just getting started. You love to hear that when you're hearing young guys coming in, making an impact or showing improvement early on in camp.
Yeah, I did yesterday. We talked about the possibility of Ryan Williams being Deuce 2.0. The Deuce is loose. So, Chase, yesterday I put up, you need to go check it out, all of the following. I put up a David Palmer highlight video followed by Ryan Williams, a brief highlight video of him, and then Ryan Williams in that number 2 jersey. And there's a play in there where I'm actually blocking for David Palmer. And man, he put so many moves on. It had me going crazy trying to block for the guy. Like I had to make 4 adjustments before he got to the line of scrimmage on my guy because he was jumping and following Palmer. But here's what Coach Womack had to say about Mbakwe, as you mentioned that. So let's see what Coach Womack had to say as he calls him Bach. It threw me off. I was like, who is Bach? Who is Bach? So that's what he calls him. So here's Coach Womack, Alabama's defensive coordinator, talking about one of his up-and-coming freshmen.
Is having an edge and just a confidence in the way that you play the game. And anybody that's watched Bach in the last few years of high school know the way he plays the game, and he really carried his team right to a state championship. And I've been so impressed with just his level of confidence, not really playing the position day in and day out of high school, but the strides that he's made from spring ball to where he is right now. I would argue that he's made as many strides as anybody in our defense.
So you want to hear that. I mean, that is exciting news if you are an Alabama fan and you know that that's an area X that they said was a potential weakness, and you want to hear some of that. He talked about other DBs. He talked about Sab and had something to say about him as well. Let's go ahead and hear what he had to say about him in terms of what he's able to bring to the table as well. So here's Coach Womack talking about Keon Sabb and what he brings to the table.
So like Keon Sabb coming from Michigan, how has he fit the second year?
Yeah. Well, Keon is a very special talent. Obviously he had some tremendous production, at Michigan, won a national championship there. And we were very fortunate to be able to have that production and that experience, because experience is finite, right? And so for us, I think he has done a really good job of leaning into our scheme, what we do. I thought from day one, week one, he did a really great job of going the extra mile to get the verbiage and the terminology down so that he could go execute and play at a high level. And now you see him starting to lead on the back end. Him, Malachi Moore. I think those guys are doing a tremendous job of communication on the back end.
Woo! X, if that doesn't get you excited, what has been the problem the last couple of years with Alabama's defense? Communication, mistakes, right?
Right.
And so when you look at the fact that he said Keon is starting to lead, and he said, and then he threw in Malachi, which tells you that Malachi has taken that coach on the field role. So good news there. If you're looking for another reason to get excited about Alabama football for 2024. Those two clips should really get you excited that one of the freshmen is taking great strides and as far as anyone. And then the other side of that is the two veteran guys are leading in communication, which means that they can help the freshmen make fewer mistakes. We got Alan who wants to get in. Alan, I think I was going to change the topic just a little bit, but that's okay. It's a free-for-all Friday. Alan, you're in on the hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning. I'm glad to have you back here for a day or two. Well, this morning, it's been an eventful morning already. I'm sitting at the truck stop this morning getting fuel. I go inside the truck stop, and these two people was in there. They were watching. They were saying, "Look at him go. He's gonna win the Olympics. He's gonna win the Olympics." They're watching the transgender fight the girl, and I just looked at it and I said, "Really?" They said, "Oh yeah, really." They said, "What's wrong with that?" I said, "That wasn't nothing but domestic violence. A man beating up a woman." Oh, and Martin, we got into a little heated discussion, and I said, "You know what? I ain't gonna sit here and argue with y'all because Martin, I'm gonna tell you, both of them look like they're about 6'5", and both of them could bring down Derrick Henry by himself. I mean, they were big. I said, I ain't gonna get here and get whooped by these two. You know, they were big. I mean, they were some big people. I don't know what to call them. I want to be politically correct, so I ain't gonna say what I don't know what to call them. But they were big. And my point is this: how can you put a man that in the Olympics he broke that girl's nose, and obviously he's stronger than that woman. How can the Olympics actually have that person in there fighting like that? That is crazy.
Unfortunately, it's a sign of the craziness of our society. I wish I could remember exactly how it was said, but it's pretty much the scripture says that which is evil will be called good, that which is good will be called evil. But there's a quote out there that talks about that, we will get to a point where intelligent people will either just choose to be quiet because when they speak, the rest of the world interprets their intelligence as ignorance. I mean, as violent or biased, while those who talk up on the stupidity seem to be right. Were this two men or two women?
It was they were dressed like women, but they were men because the voice was deeper than mine.
Okay, there it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's so the craziest part to me, and I'll get off of this, and you can hang on if you have another football question after the break. But Alan, here's the craziest part to me. All of the people who are for that are also the same people who are fighting for women's rights. And I'm like, do you all not understand that this is taken away from women's rights? That young lady, born a lady, has worked her whole life to get to the Olympics.
Exactly.
And then to have that moment robbed by a man, I don't care what you call it. You can call him or her or him or whatever.
Exactly.
Here's something I heard. I think it was just yesterday. There's two types of people. There's the woman and the man. And you can, and the guy said, if you go to the doctor, one of them can get pregnant and one of them cannot. No matter how much they try to say they can or want to claim something, the reality of it is this, is if that man who's now trans says, I think I may be pregnant, the doctor will not give them a pregnancy test. Why? Because he's a man. He knows he's a man. You can call yourself what you want. And the point he made was men are born one way, women are born another way. Now, if there's some type of anomaly that happens, then you deal with it. It's just like if human beings are born with two legs. If you see a human being with one leg, you know something went wrong. Because all human beings are born with two legs unless something went wrong. Men are born men, women are born women, and that's what it is. I always tell people this way. Every time I think of female, I'd say fetus, male, female, or woman, man with the womb. Whichever way you want to call it, whichever way you want to do it, the reality of it is we're in a crazy, crazy world. And I may have some listeners that disagree with me, don't like me, whatever. You have your opinion. I have my opinion. And I really don't have my opinion. I say my opinion doesn't matter. I base it off of what the Bible says. And that's where I set my opinion. And when my opinion disagrees with his, I go with his. Alan, did you have anything else, man?
Hey, no, I'm with you when you're white, Martin, and I totally agree with you. The Bible clearly says Adam and Eve, not nothing but Adam and Steve. So, we'll leave that right there. Y'all gentlemen have a good day and welcome back, X.
Thanks. Coming back on the other side, we'll get, and hey, listen, you're welcome to call up, give your opinions, your thoughts, whatever. You're welcome to them. It's a free-for-all Friday. I have mine. You can have yours. I'm going to live out mine and you can live out yours. Don't mean I won't speak up against it or for it. So, I'll try to be consistent in what I believe and you can do likewise. This is the Martin Houston Show. Thank you so much for being part of the program. We'll be back on the other side to keep things rolling. The phone lines are open at 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Our early morning drive times on this Friday are all in pretty good shape. Just 7 minutes along eastbound 2059 from Foster's to McFarland. If you're traveling westbound from Cottondale to the 359, about 8 minutes there and 13 minutes on McFarland.
And also offer custom screen printing. Let Eyecatchers print shirts for your next event. 345-7762. Eyecatchers Screen Printing and Gifts, where getting seen becomes an art.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. Heat advisories are in effect until 9 p.m. tonight. Temperatures in the upper 90s. Heat index values near 107 today. Expect intervals of clouds and sunshine. Be prepared for some scattered showers and storms this afternoon, though. A weak surface front moving southward could trigger some severe storms with isolated damaging wind gusts. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low of 74. Still a chance of a lingering storm early. Then tomorrow, expect sunshine with a high near 94. I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show. The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Okay, it looks like we lost Martin. We're going to try to get him back on. So as we were going to break, we were kind of talking about, hey, fall practice has started. We've got some news and things from practice as well. And of course, we've got Kenny Smith III joining us on the special edition Friday. And normally you catch him with us on Mondays, but Kennison, glad to have you in on this Friday as we continue to talk with this fall practice going on. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, and you all right, but I felt like in light of the first few days of practices and getting a chance to learn a few things and observe a few things that I felt like were interesting, I thought it was worth it to come on a Friday, so I appreciate y'all having me on and hope you're doing well also.
Oh, cannot complain at all. So, Kenny, you say there's some things that you've noticed out there, man. What have you seen from Coach DeBoer and how he's handling his first fall practices?
Yeah, I think the main thing is just the intensity of Kane Wommack. I think is one of the big things that you notice off the bat. I think you're kind of going from the demeanor change of Saban to DeBoer. You figure that there might be some intensity lost there, but Wommack is kind of bringing it. He's very vocal, very animated. I think that's noticeable. Staying on the defensive side, I think the Xavier Brown hype is very real. You heard about what he did in spring, kind of assuming the first team reps, and you wonder how that momentum was going to carry in a fall camp. And then yesterday, Wommack said that, off the bat, he and Damani Jackson were really, really impressive at cornerback in the first few days. So I think the Xavier Brown ascension is something that's notable as well. And I think that battle with Deshaun Jones at that cornerback spot opposite of Damani Jackson is probably the most high-profile position battle of fall camp, and it looks like Brown isn't backing down from the vet Jones is at all, and might end up coming out of fall camp as the starter.
Oh wow, that's pretty impressive. Got you.
All right. Sorry about that. And it probably does sound frustration in my voice. And so it's real. I apologize for that. Thanks, Kennedy. I was able to hear you guys, as well. Go ahead with your question, Ed.
So with that, with the competition there, is that going to be probably the most intense battle during the start of fall camp, or do you think potentially the offensive line, that right tackle position, is that the go-to position battle, or with Formby and Pritchett and maybe Miles McVay in the mix there, or is it going to be that number 2 cornerback spot?
Yeah, I would say probably the cornerback spot for me is probably number 1, just because I think secondary is probably the biggest concern on the team amongst, fans and the media is that kind of reconfiguration of what's happening back there. I would throw in the edge rusher competition as well. I think when you look at the correlation of what was lost in production versus what returned, edge rusher probably has the most disparity of any position on the team. Secondary is a question, but at least Malachi Moore and Keon Saab have started and won championships as starters and played in big games. You don't have that same type of returning production at that edge rusher spot. So that's another interesting battle as well. And we got a chance to learn some things about that in the first few days. Also that I thought were noticeable. Quay Rousseau has started to make a move, and I think that's something that I think fans are going to be pretty excited about. Obviously, he was a blue chip guy, and kind of learned yesterday from Christian Robertson that he's somebody that is starting to ascend and might, figure to play some snaps as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, go ahead. Ed.
And as we continue to look at it, there's a lot of youth on this team, and I know a lot of people are kind of concerned with that. You have, of course, Coach Saban's gone, but the youth movement is probably going to have to be really vital on how this team and this season goes. How do you feel with the overall youth movement that's going to be an impact on this team?
Yeah, I think it was kind of two sides of the same coin thing when you think about the amount of youth on the team. On one end, it is a concern just because experience is finite, to quote Kane Wommack, and you want to have experienced players. But also the fact that a lot of these freshmen in spring were able to early enroll and get some quality reps during spring practice, because maybe in a normal spring under Saban, the guys who got first and second team reps would be getting third and fourth team reps because of the amount of older guys that were on the team. But because Saban left, a lot of guys were able, left the program through the portal or whatever. Those freshmen were able to come in and get some high quality reps throughout spring. So I think their development was a little bit accelerated. And I think you're starting to see those dividends in fall camp when you think about Xavier Brown being able to continue to progress at a high level. Jalen Mbakwe is making plenty of strides. Red Morgan is making strides. I think it is going to end up being like a positive thing in hindsight. It might just take a little bit of time. So you are right. It is a young team. There are going to be some freshmen that are going to be counted on to either start, play rotational snaps, or assume a role on the two deep and be, called on to play should an injury or something happen. And that might be a little concerning on the surface, but these are, highly talented kids. And from, everything that we've observed and heard from the coaching staff, a lot of these freshmen seem to be picking things up well and are going to be in a position to contribute this fall.
Hey, Kennington, when you look at this, I know a lot of people, and this is Martin's opinion, but I think it's pretty valid. We've always had freshmen come in and play. We used to have guys come straight from high school, no spring practice, no summer, and come in and play. By the time these guys get to here, they are farther along than freshmen were 18 years ago. I mean, those freshmen that are true freshmen at Alabama, that they have been through an off season. They've been through a spring. They've been here all summer, for the most part. And then you have a Ryan Williams who just showed up and he's still ready. And so that's why I tell people, I don't look at these freshmen the way we've not transitioned our mindset of what a freshman is. We still label them like we used to, in the old days. They have better high school programs, weight, strength, and conditioning programs, especially big schools, these 5A, 6A, schools. And so I know they've not played in an SEC game, but they practiced against SEC talent and one of the most talented rosters, whichever side you're on. So Martin's not as worried about them being labeled freshmen. That's just my thoughts. But I've not heard us as a media, and fan base adjust our mindset. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I thought you made a really good point about just the level of competition and quality training that they're getting in high school. And I would also add in the fact that they're getting a lot of reps in 7-on-7. Football is like a year-round sport now, where maybe, a couple of decades ago, you play football, but then you focus on other sports during the winter and the spring, and then you don't get back into it until maybe that fall. They're doing 7-on-7s. They're doing a lot of things throughout the year, so they're getting a lot of those reps. And that, I think a part of it is just maybe the hesitation to not put so much on freshmen because that with that experience gap, they are prone to probably making more mistakes than a veteran player. So maybe not like just putting so much on, a true freshman to say, they're just going to come in, seamless transition, be able to play and look like a Power 5 veteran off the bat. I think that's kind of where it comes from. But I'm starting to kind of wean off of that. When you hear the coaches and these players' teammates talk so highly of them about how their work ethic is and how they're picking things up and how well they're performing. Like once you kind of hear that validation from the powers that be, that kind of gives you the clearance to be able to say, okay, this guy's going to be able to play day one. That's why I think Xavier Brown, to me, has been one of the biggest storylines in the first few days. It's like you kind of heard good things in the spring, and then you think to yourself, okay, what's going to happen when the transfer portal guys come in the summer, more experienced guys come in the summer? Is he going to still be kind of in that same tier, or is he going to kind of fall back because experienced guys are coming in? But he's still, at the top of the heap along with some other guys as well. So I do kind of agree with your assessment. I think there's a couple factors at play, but hearing the coaches' praise and the teammates' praise of those players has kind of opened the door to, to raise those expectations.
Yeah, and as we go to break here, and we'll pick it back up on the other side, one of these guys that we're calling a true freshman is a high school senior, and we are not fearful of talking about him being on the field. And so I want you to sink in on that thought for just a moment. Is this guy came out of high school ready to play at the next level, and he should still be in high school. And I'll talk about that. We'll pick up that conversation on the other side. We have Kennington Smith III in for a special edition. I'm Martin Houston. That's Xavier Houston. As we go to break, I'm going to try this again. Get your officially licensed co-branded Alabama swag, the Legacy Collection, premium jerseys, make fullbacks great again, and more. All you need to do is scan the QR code if you're on with us on Facebook and on the live stream, or that QR code will take you to the same place. You can type in athletesthread.com/collections/Martin-Houston.
Greensboro app. Stop in today or visit us online at buyfromjulio.com.
Bars must have qualified credit. Not all bars will qualify. This report is sponsored by Unbound.org.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. We're live, local, and got things rolling right here in your home for Alabama sports. We appreciate you being a part of the program. We have Kennington Smith III on with us this morning. Extra coverage there, breaking down what he's seen from practice, giving a shout out to Xavier Brown, saying he's making big time improvements. I am convinced this is Martin having went through it as a former player at St. Kennington. I came in as a freshman, had a chance to play, and Coach Curry said, "Hey, you can play. You're good enough to play, but you're gonna." Not going to get a lot of reps because you're behind a couple guys, so we can redshirt you or we can play you sporadically. And I said, I'd rather be redshirted and not, lose a year on just a handful of plays sprinkled in. Then I went through the off season. And dude, when spring rolled around, I was a different player. Because the summer before I came, I worked out, but nothing like what I did in all season. Then that summer before, transitioned my body. These guys, because the reality of it is, I didn't grow any as a football player once the season started. I was as good as I was going to be. Well, these guys get that whole year. They're the equivalent of a redshirt freshman, and no one's shocked at a redshirt freshman. But to your point, Kennington, think about this. If we were talking about an offensive lineman coming in and playing, then I would be more concerned. But we saw that, Proctor did it and we saw that happen. But DBs, man, do you know how many reps these guys get compared to what they used to get? Wide receivers get? You see what I'm saying? Like with the 7-on-7 quarterbacks, wide receivers, and pass catching running backs can grow as much in a summer as guys used to grow through a whole season of practice. Because route running is route running. And if you can adjust when you put the pads on, but you've got the timing and the technique down, dude, it's on. And I think that's why we're seeing. But I will acknowledge this, Kennington, to your point. Who was the best freshman on the team last year? Potentially the best player. Caleb Downs, right?
Yeah.
The Texas game and the Michigan game, what did he do? Made freshman mistakes.
Right.
So to your point, it's both, they're ready to play, but sometimes big moments can still get them, even if they're elite. But it can get anybody. But to your point, I just wanted to point out the dude that was on his way to potentially being, the best ever play here, still in the two biggest games, had critical mistakes. So let's bring in Pat really quick, and then we'll get back on this. Pat, you're in with X and Kennington. What's on your mind?
Hey, good. I'm glad we got Kennington today, too, because this quick, if he's been watching practice, I want to know about LT Overton. That LT Overton was rated the number 6 player or so in the country in high school. Is he going to be living up to the hype and disrupt the backfield?
Yeah, the interesting thing about LT is that he actually has not been at practice this week. He's not feeling well. So they're hopeful that he might be able to get out there. Saturday, tomorrow is the next opportunity. But if he's not out tomorrow, maybe early next week. But Womack said hopefully the next day or two he'll be able to get out there. But he hasn't been at practice. But he is going to be, a big part of the rotation. He's somebody that they're depending on to put pressure on the quarterback at that bandit spot. So, Jamarian Latham is kind of assuming a lot of the first team reps at that spot. But when LT gets back, feeling better and healthy, those two are going to be battling it out for some, high level rotation snaps.
Okay. Yeah, let's listen to let's listen to what Coach actually addressed that position and expectations on yesterday. So let's see if we can hear what he had to say here. Just a second. Or work this in. Coach Womack was addressing the edge rusher, which they're part of that edge rushing package. Pat.
Well, I think there's natural instincts, right, that are built into, young men, right? And then there's developed, I don't know if instinct is the right word, right? But they hone in on their skills and they start to have an instinct for the scheme, and what we do defensively. And the way we're structurally built is we want to allow our guys to be able to break on the ball, to play with some vision at times. And when you play with instinctive vision, the windows start to get really tighter. So people have a misconception of vision coverage, right? That it's all this space out there. Really what you're doing is you're taking away the grass and the people that the quarterback is wanting to get the ball to, right? And so you see our players naturally starting to get a little bit more matchy, with some of their coverage when we play some of our vision style coverages, and then just having a better feel for our defense. If you look at us last season and then you look at us in the spring, I didn't think we started particularly well on defense early in games. And then we started to hit our stride as the game went on. We've really encouraged our guys to start playing, not on their heels, but be the aggressor, early. And that means playing with some instincts. And I think we're seeing that.
Yeah. And so he went on, to talk a little bit more about those guys.
Well, I think, you look at pressure a number of different ways, right? Some of it is just natural. Can we go 4 down and be able to, create pressure on the quarterback off the edge? We are very focused on takeaways here and creating takeaways.
Amen.
And you create takeaways by creating pressure on the quarterback, right? We looked at all 7, there was like 751, takeaways in the NFL last season. All right. And out of those, right, the vast majority of them come from the pressure on the quarterback, whether they hit the quarterback, got hands on the quarterback, or they were able to put him in an uncomfortable position to where he forced to throw. And so for us, I think we've got some guys naturally that can do that off the edge. To me, Jamarian Latham, LT Overton, I think I've seen a lot out of that Wolf room right now. I think Keanu Coate, Quay Russaw, Q Robinson are doing some great things. And then you've got some younger guys like Yanze Pierre that are starting to step up. Keon Keeley off the edge to the field and Jordan Renat. I mean, I've really been pleased with some of the rush that we've been able to create. And then naturally our backers and safeties have a lot of instinctive, what we call blitz awareness. We look for that whenever we're recruiting players. Does a second level player have great blitz awareness? And I think we have that from a couple of our safeties and backers.
All right. X, I'll let you respond and I'll let you respond, Kennington, because you mentioned a guy, that he brought up, earlier as well, but, addressing what Pat was asking about LT and then of course he threw late in there as well, but exciting to to hear him say we really focus on turnovers.
Yeah, when you look at the amount of guys that he talks about right there, that's deep, and that's a rotation. That's guys staying fresh and being able to contribute throughout the game. You know, you get your young guys in there, your depth guys in there throughout the course of a game. So in a tight game, you know, in fourth quarter, you got your starters, your big dogs fresh and ready to get after the quarterback to potentially change games. And that's one thing I'm excited to hear about when you hear about some of the other guys down the stretch, you know, where it was one or two guys having to contribute for 4 quarters. Now you're talking about 3 to 4 guys. And I think that this is beneficial to everybody as a whole.
Kennington.
Yeah, first thing I want to say is on a lighthearted note, that soundbite that you played, everything that you just heard was in response to one single question. That was like a 3-minute soliloquy on defensive philosophy and pressure, and then at the very end he answered the initial question, which was kind of who's sticking out at the edge rusher position, and he kind of named the guy. So long-winded answer, all good stuff, but that's like the initial thing. It was just kind of funny to hear him do that in real time. I'm going to offer up another quote. This is from Christian Robinson, who wasn't at the main mic, talking about Quay Russaw. He said, "I've told him that it is his time to be a part of what we're doing and to get out in front." And then he goes on to say, "I'm excited to see him do it at a high level this fall." So that to me sounds like somebody who has, you know, impressed in spring and really put in a lot of work this summer, and has kind of carried that over in the first few days of fall camp. So I think when we're talking about that outside linebacker, pass rusher spot, a lot of the conversation has been around Quandarius Robinson and Keanu Coote. But Quay Russaw has definitely asserted himself, and we kind of have a top 3 at that position, I think, and that's going to be interesting to see play out.
Yeah, that was a name we briefly mentioned, but we didn't go into a lot of depth on. Pat, did that make you feel better about ALT?
Yeah, man, you did, but my ex didn't get to speak yesterday. He had to be on assignment, and my question for X is, tell me about A.K. Deer. That I want this man in the rotation. Auburn got the best running back in Alabama. I want to know why. I want to know when A.K. Deer is going to commit.
I don't know when he's going to commit. He's stayed quiet since he decommitted. He's been to Bama. He was at the cold summer cookout. But he's keeping everything close to the vest, and I still like where we sit, the position that we're in with him. Just going to have to really let this thing play out.
I think Pat, I'm going to let you go, but I think he's going to wait to see how they utilize running backs in this offense. If they only use 2 guys, he's not coming. If they rotate 3 guys, he's probably coming. Because he knows that only one of those running backs is leaving next year. And then the next year, only one of them is eligible to leave. So he would have to jump 3 really good running backs to get to the 3rd spot. The 2nd spot. So, with a year or 2 on him. So I think that's what's probably going on there. All right. Thanks, Pat. We'll be back on the other side to put the finishing touches on this edition of the Martin Houston Show. I appreciate you, being a part of it.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We have a notable construction project had rolled out on the U of A campus yesterday. This is a closure of the southbound lane of 2nd Avenue between Coliseum Circle and 15th Street for a repaving project. The northbound lane remains open as that work goes on. No big accidents or breakdowns dotting the board for the moment. The drive on 2059 and McFarland as well as Lurling Wallace all remain in good condition. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Friday morning. Joshua Jones, a former Walker County Corrections officer with the Sheriff Department, has agreed to a plea deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's in connection with that January 2023 death of Tony Mitchell while in custody at the Walker County Jail. The U.S. Attorney's Office says more charges are expected to be filed against 5 unnamed co-conspirators. Click TuscaloosaThread.com all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. You can keep up with all the local news, sports, and weather coverage. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Friday edition of The Game, we're going to get you ready for another big weekend of Alabama Crimson Tide football. A couple of different practices on Saturday, Sunday. We're going to preview those and a lot more. We'll talk to Brent Beard. We'll do our Free-for-All Friday sponsored by Brian Harden Construction with your phone calls right here on The Game starting at 2 p.m. on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program
of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the...
Experience the wow factor. Contact Shoot Masonry and Specialties at 205-887-3807 today and unleash your home's full potential.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show. Your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. It's the fourth and final quarter of the regular program. I want to encourage you to stay with us as we move throughout the morning. Had a couple of technical glitches, but figured out what's going on there. Want to remind you, go check out your Martin Houston Show swag. You can just click the QR code or go to martinhouston.org and click on shop, and it'll take you to the page. And you can see the Martin Houston Show swag, and Love God, Love People swag. And highlighted right there is a pink hat. So if y'all have a lady in your life that's a big sports fan, we have some swag geared just for her. So, just click the QR code or visit martinhouston.org and click on shop. All right, guys, as we continue to move throughout the morning. The Martin Houston Show powered by Box Eye Care. Gonna have a little OT, but Kennington, anything from your side that just jumps out or that you want to highlight that we may not have hit yet?
Yeah, I think what you said about A.K. Deer and the running back rotation is really interesting because with what we've observed, it truly is a 1A, 1B thing with Justice Haynes and Jen Miller, which isn't surprising. I wonder what the distribution of, first team reps Richard Young is going to get, if he's going to get any during fall camp. You talk about the possibility of a 3 running back rotation. From what I've gleaned, if Justice Haynes is leading one drill, Jen Miller will lead the next drill. If Richard Young is working with Jalen Milroe one day, Jen Miller is working with him the next day. They do seem to be working in tandem on that one line. Is it possible that Richard Young can close the gap and assume some of those spots? Because the running game is going to be pretty diverse. Haynes is going to get his touches. Miller's going to get his touches. Jalen Milroe is going to be involved in as well. Is there a piece of the pie in there for Richard Young? So I'll be interested the next time we get a chance to talk to Robert Gillespie, whenever that is. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. But I want to know how close is Richard Young to those 2 other guys. And that is going to be, I think, it's not obviously a main storyline, but something kind of underlying that I think is going to be interesting to watch in August.
X, you have anything for Kennington, or you got anything else you want to specifically hit?
Kennington with the continued additions of what this coaching staff has done and the new guys, who's been the most exciting guy you've seen on both sides of the ball so far through the limited time you've had?
Yeah, I think, I'm going to go back to Ryan Williams, somebody I think that's been exciting. Obviously, just the hype that's surrounding him. And I think when you listen to people talk about him, it's kind of living up to that. Another player that I'm really excited about is Kendrick Law. Just seems really explosive. You see the frame that he has, and it's been almost overstated at this point that he ran, 23.6 miles per hour. He benches 450, but if you get a chance to actually see him kind of in the jersey and the shorts working out, you kind of see that frame, you see that explosiveness. So somebody who, flashed a lot last year when he had the ball in his hands, somebody I think is going to get a lot of touches this year, somebody that I think could be a potential breakout candidate. So those are two wide receivers that I think have looked good and looked explosive, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from them in August.
All right. And, I have been waiting on them to use Law. To me, he's like Debo with the 49ers. Which once again may eat into the carries of, a guy like Young. I mean, you have, three legit ball carriers that could all go for 1,500 yards, including your quarterback, but you have a guy like Law. So I think, like I said, I think that Deere may be waiting. He may not be. He may not be afraid to come in and battle and be willing to wait, because it's played out pretty well for the Alabama running backs in the past. Kennington, when you had to sit down, your opportunity to sit down with Coach DeBoer, what was your biggest takeaway from having a chance to talk with him earlier this week?
Yeah, when sitting down with DeBoer, I think obviously whenever you're talking about what he's been able to do ascending to this role, you think about the X's and O's, but in the conversations that I've had with him and then talking to people around him, the Jake Hayners, who he coached at Fresno State, Michael Penix and others at Washington, and going back to the Sioux Falls days, there's something about him a little bit more intrinsic than just the X's and O's. And that's just his kind of priority of building relationships and how he kind of blends different cultures together. And that's kind of what I wanted to write about. And that feature is up on The Athletic, just kind of talking to him about kind of getting the people part of it right, hiring the right people, doing things that are necessary to blend cultures and build proper cultures, and how that affects the people in the building, and then how that translates to success on the field. So got a chance to learn a lot about kind of just how he sees things and kind of how those different experiences have kind of shaped who he is. And I think it's something that people would enjoy reading. I've got some good feedback on it at The Athletic and otherwise, so I would encourage everybody to go check it out.
Yeah, if you go back and look at his interview after the press conference, I should say, it was amazing how many times he mentioned relationship. Almost every answer that it could be inserted, it was. And do you think that let me see, how did he put it? He said that is the biggest strength for me and my coaches, is that we build those relationships in that conversation on yesterday. How important do you think that it has been and will be as they go through, no matter how good this season is, there are going to be a couple tight moments in games and or after a game if it doesn't go the way Alabama expects?
Yeah, I think it's going to be critical because at the end of the day, these players have to trust him, and the coaches have to trust that he is putting them in the very best position. And he's had experience doing this. This is not the first time that he's followed a highly successful coach. He did so at Sioux Falls. He did it at Fresno State with Jeff Tedford, did it at Washington with Chris Peterson. Obviously, this is the most high profile and the most successful of those coaches in Nick Saban. But that's something that he's done kind of everywhere that he's been. So coming in and building that relationship with the high-level players on the team and earning their trust and, having the players think, okay, we are losing Nick Saban, but we feel, as confident in what Coach DeBoer is going to do is going to be really critical when you get into those tight moments that they're going to be able to trust the play call, trust the strategy, and then go execute it at a high level. So I think that relationship building is just as consequential as what is ultimately going to happen on the field. By all accounts, they've been able to kind of blend the cultures, and it's on a good trajectory. But as we all know, ultimately what's going to ultimately decide it is what happens on the field this fall.
Yep. Alex, closing thoughts?
Hey, football is back. Practice just kicked off, and it's been exciting to hear and learn about some of the guys that have made key impacts already and guys that are looking impressive. Got to keep it rolling.
Yeah, we're talking football. Kennington, tell them where they can find you, man. I appreciate you jumping on this Friday morning.
Yeah, no doubt. On Twitter/X at @SkinnyKenny_, theathletic.com or The Athletic on your mobile app, searching Alabama football, my name, anything related to Alabama athletics, you'll find what we got going on.
All right. And to go check out that interview he did with Coach DeBoer, I think showing the other side. I love his Tell the Truth Sunday. Hopefully he'll be able to tell the truth about the good, not the bad, and the mistakes as he referred to it versus the good, bad, and ugly. Hey, we're going to go to a little OT. I'm going to talk about Coach Womack and what he meant by vision coverage, in my opinion. This is my thoughts, and about closing the space in the grass. Sometimes we don't understand fully what he's talking about. Sometimes people think you have to cover that whole area. No, you just have to know how many guys can threaten your area and make sure that you close out on those guys. So I'll break that down on the other side with a little Martin Houston Show OT. It's been a free-for-all Friday. We want to thank our sponsors, and specifically it's been the Martin Houston Show powered by Box Eye Care. We'll be back on the other side.